Ben Simmons hasn't been on his A-game recently, and we can all tell. He came out recently to open up about his experience last season, and while he admitted his faults, he also talked about the mental battle he faced. In today's video, we'll be talking about how Ben broke his silence over his mental health saga, and how he torched Shaq. First up, let's dive straight into Simmons, pointing out Shaq's criticism. So the Brooklyn Nets star appeared on the Old Man and the Three podcast, where he opened up about all the struggles he faced last season. He was pretty open about the entire situation, his mental health plummeting during it all, and with what he'd want to do in the future. In doing all this, he called out the myth and the NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal. You might be wondering what for. The entire NBA media were tough on Simmons, but Shaq and his crew were the toughest maybe. Shaq was disappointed in him for not reaching up to his potential in the Hawks series, and much more. He even said that he spoke to the youngsters since both of them went to LSU. But Simmons opened up that Shaq was dismissive of his personal struggles when he spoke with them. He went on to say that the rhetoric he and Charles Barkley used for his personal issues wasn't cool. For them to use their platform like this maybe wasn't the best idea. According to Simmons, if Shaq was his LSU brother, he would have made an effort to reach out after the struggles he'd been going through for months. To publicly criticize knowing the situation but not extend a private hand does put him in a pretty negative light. He added that not once did Shaq say that, "Hey, you okay? Like, what's going on?" Stephen A. Smith had called Simmons the weakest, most pathetic excuse for a professional athlete in the history of sports for sitting out due to back soreness. Well, it definitely was an excuse because he had to get back surgery done. Next up, let's discuss Simmons' downfall. Since the entire media was hard on him, you might wonder what exactly happened that led to this. This all started after the Atlanta Hawks went over the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2021 NBA playoffs. During the offseason, Simmons suffered an injury and was dealing with serious mental health issues. With people coming at him left and right for various reasons, it left him confused and upset at the sport. At one point, he wanted people to get off his case. He guards the best players on the court and thinks that people don't respect him enough. When they ask what he brings to the table, he responded, "There's a lot of I'm bringing." In light of that, he held out against players for the Sixers. This led him to being traded to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden. His former team refused to pay his $20 million salary, even though he didn't play due to mental health reasons. Many thought that this is where he'd come back, but alas, he was still recovering from his injury and couldn't play for them either. Shaq had come out against Simmons holding out with the Sixers and was even more critical when the Australian athlete wasn't showing up for work. The most recent incident was when Simmons was reported to return in the 2022 playoffs, but ended up not playing. But hey, Simmons is looking fit and strong for the next season, and might just make all the haters eat their words. But right now, there seems to be tension between the two as Shaq responded. Following that, Shaq came out to respond to the star, giving his own example. Simmons was bashed most for his infamous refusal to take an open dunk in the fourth quarter of Game 7. His own team threw him under the bus for that after they got eliminated. Simon said that his reaction killed him as the ones who were supposed to comfort him were against him instead. And after expressing his disagreement with Shaq's criticism, the 7-foot-tall legend hit back. He said that Simmons was scared to shoot and should have done so even if Michael Jordan was on his back. He spoke in the latest podcast of the Big Podcast with Shaq that as an analyst, his job is to report what they see and observe right after a match happens. Every great player, including Shaq himself, has faced a myriad of never-ending backlash before he got to the top. People talk about his free throws all the time to this day. Yet the NBA legend doesn't care. It doesn't bother him because with the paycheck comes the heavy clashes. Next, Shaq spoke about mental health. Shaq fired back at the young star that he cared about big players and will continue to let him know of his faults. Expecting great things from Simmons, he'll call him out when those expectations aren't met. He's been through similar things, but during his time, mental health wasn't a valid reason to give. Shaq acknowledged that he wished Simmons well with the mental health issues he faced. He understands that it's real, and the young star finally spoke about it after 2 years. But the 50-year-old said that in his era, there was no excuses. He faced similar problems but had no choice but to prevail. It worked because now he's said to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He ended it by saying that nothing is going to stop him from doing his job and sugarcoating things. He'll continue to give constructive criticism to the youngsters, whether they want to be on top or not. But as of now, there's bad blood between the two. Now moving on to other related news that might interest you. First up, Shaq revised his criticism of the late Kobe Bryant. Throughout Shaq's entire career, he faced some pretty harsh criticism even though he was one of the most dominant centers ever. But guess what? He stayed true to his words when saying that you just have to get through it all. Because this tall dude got through it all with 4 NBA titles, 3 Finals MVP awards, and 1 regular season MVP award. He's considered the greatest in the sport, and for good reasons. The recent back and forth with Ben Simmons brought forth many statements from Shaq. Simmons had invited his critics to watch the game tape so he could break down what exactly happened, but Shaq said he's had enough. According to the legend, you have to go through a lot of ridicule, criticism, and hate from your teammates and organizations at times. Big Diesel became a superstar the moment he stepped into the court. He won 3 straight titles for the Lakers and was the Finals MVP for them, but the very next season, he was facing backlash. The late Kobe Bryant had called out Shaq saying, since it's his team, no more coming into camp fat and out of shape. Next up, Ben Simmons gets a strange response from his Brooklyn Nets coach. After a tough couple of years and an offseason, Simmons is set to get back to playing this upcoming season, and his new coach, Steve Nash, isn't worried about his lack of shooting skills. While the player was selected first overall in the 2016 NBA draft with strong stats, his shooting form is terrible. unacceptable, and Nash had something quite strange to say about it. According to him, Ben's a great and incredibly unique player. Shooting is just one aspect of the entire game, and others can deal with it. So the coach doesn't care if he ever shoots a jump shot for the Nets. He can if he will, but if it isn't his specialty, then it's nonsense to expect it from him. He complements the team well, is a terrific screener, and his size and speed can help the ball get in the gaps. He's expected to be a great fit for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Finally, we have Shaquille O'Neal confessing his sins following the Udoka scandal. Shaq is no doubt a successful player and a legend in the field, but that doesn't cover all aspects of life, and it's imperative to discuss that. He reflected on himself following the scandal of Boston Celtics coach Ime Udoka, who was caught cheating on his wife with a female staff member from the team, leading to a suspension. The former Lakers player refused to judge and recalled his own rough divorce. He admitted flat out that he was a serial cheater, and it would be crazy and blasphemous of him to get up in any platform and spit out hateful words. Shaq isn't the only such player. Kobe Bryant had a harassment case against him that was forgotten in the wake of his fame. He admits to knowing them personally and understands that they're going through a lot. On the verge of tears, he said that his own mistakes led to a hard and lengthy divorce process, limiting his time with his children. If only his sympathy extended to the young players too. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of Simmons calling out Shaq for the rough treatment? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.